broadcast, baby. Yeah. It's the Sheriff, AHL Man of the Year. 500 pro fights in his career. Got the record for most ice fights in a season. You fought the Sheriff, lucky you still breathe. It's the Sheriff.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have this guy today right beside me, and I'm going to present him right now.
Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls all over the world, I would like to introduce to you my guest tonight. He hails from Pictou, Nova Scotia, at 6 feet, 200 pounds. He is a middleweight. Award-winning author of books like Hockey Card Stories and One Night Only. Over 20 years experience in broadcasting, ladies and gentlemen. He has covered the Olympics, the Stanley Cup Finals, the Grey Cup, and the Super Bowl. Former host of Sportsnet's 590 Primetime Sportsnet and current co-host of Sportsnet's Connected alongside Ivanka Osmak. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, my friend, Mr. Ken Reid.
What's up,
how are
Sheriff?
you doing today, my man?
Good, buddy. Good, buddy. Thanks
Awesome.
for the
Well, we
applause.
clap for each other
There
around
we go.
here.
Here we go. I like the posse. Your mom looks great. She's got the Christmas outfit on. I'm sorry it's taking me so long to come down here because you record when I'm at work. But don't tell anybody I'm going to be late for work tonight just so I can come down and see you, buddy.
Well, Ken, I mean, I appreciate it through and through. Like, obviously, you know that I'm a big fan. You're an idol of mine.
Likewise. Now, here's the cool thing. We never realized till we got talking that you used to be roommates with a buddy of mine, Andy Sim, back in your OHL days. And Andy's brother, Mike, and I were here a couple weeks ago, and I was like, this is where the Sheriff does his pod.
Andrew Sim, you're talking about,
Yeah,
right?
Andrew,
Okay, yes.
yeah.
Man, Simmer was probably one of my favorite teammates that I've ever had. The guy is very, very funny. Got a really good sense of humor. And I'm actually glad that you brought that up because I love hearing about old buddies of mine.
Yeah, Andrew's a great guy. His brother Johnny had a great NHL career. His brother Mike played in the O a bit. And you got another big fan who wants a shout out here on the Sheriff podcast, Michael Couch. He was a kind of a wannabe goon with the Halifax Mooseheads 22
I know
years
the
ago.
name.
Couch, I call him the Chesterfield, Couch of Chesterfield, all-around beauty guy. He's Mr. Hockey down in Nova Scotia. So, Chesterfield, what's up? And maybe one day the Sheriff can punch you in the chin or something.
There you go.
If it works out, buddy.
So, Ken, I mean, I'll be honest with you, buddy. Like, I like to get to the beginnings, but to be honest with you, this is what I wanted to talk about right off the hop. I wanted to talk about your connection with your fans, okay? Which I'm one of them.
Thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to put it out this way. A kid from Scarborough that watches sports, obviously we're looking for action. We're looking to see who can give us the best insight. When I watch Ken Reid, these are the things that I notice. I notice how happy you are to report the sports. I notice how into it. Yeah. I notice how you can tell that you're a huge fan of the game. And a guy like me, a fellow sportsman, I really appreciate that.
Thanks.
So right off the hop, you create this connection to your peers. And I wanted to point that out because I truly believe, Ken, that that's probably one of the reasons why you were able to reach all the way to the top. Did you have a strategy for that, or is it just Ken Reid 2.0?
It's just me, man. I'm glad it comes through the screen. And honestly, it's just me. And when I do highlights, I've been told I'm very energetic. And it's funny because I really like Jack Michael's play-by-play. He's the play-by-play guy for the Oilers, and he's super energetic. We came out of one of Jack's games last night, Oilers in Minnesota, and he's like, "You're trying to steal my thing?" I'm like, "Same thing." And I loved Bob Cole, and I loved Danny Gallivan because Bob Cole would bring a game that's a 6 out of a 10, and he'd make it a 9. He'd bring a 2, and he'd make it a 7. And it wasn't that he was trying to oversell the game. It was just he was passionate about it, and he was there. So when I'm doing the highlights, I'm passionate about it. And the way that the show works with Ivanka and I is I see the highlights at the same time you see them. Like, I don't get to see them before we come over the air. Like, a script prints out between Ivanka and I. Yeah. And I will read the highlights. It's called reading them cold. So they're in the monitor, and I'm reading them. You've been there. You've seen what it looks like. And I just get into it. So, if I see a great play or something, I'm reacting the same way you are. Like, there was some wicked hits last night. Sweet scrap there with Pizzetta.
That was unbelievable.
Oh, that was, man. He got that kid on the chin. And props to that kid. It was his first pro fight. He's a U.S. college guy, so he hadn't done it before. But, I just react. Like, if I see a fantastic Crosby goal, and it's funny because when you start as a sportscaster, you try to be a sportscaster. But then after a while, you realize just be you. And it's the toughest thing is to be yourself on camera because you're exposing yourself. So when people tweet me and say you suck, well, they actually think I suck. And you got to learn that some people are going to think you suck. Some people are going to like it, but you have to be comfortable with what you do. Like, I never thought I would ever be on TV comparing Sidney Crosby to Wooderson from Dazed and Confused, but last night I was, because they're both old guys who play in a young guys kind of league, if you know what I mean. They both got the dusters, so that's where I went with Sidney Crosby last night. So you just got to be true to yourself. You find out who you really are, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, I guess I can do something else for a living.
I don't think I could have said it any better than that. I appreciate you sharing that, Ken, but so before we move on, I just have to touch up on this fight that we mentioned. Because, man, first of all, when I saw the highlight last night, I was thinking it was from like years ago because I'm like, first of all, I mean, the Montreal Canadiens aren't known for, a fighting team. And second of all, man, oh man, did these guys ever talk this out and squaring up center ice? I couldn't believe it. So this was center ice at the Bell Center last night, okay? And it was incredible. So, it goes to show that there is still character in the NHL. And for those people that are like, the NHL is boring now, hey, check out the highlights last night.
That
was
awesome.
Incredible.
And Pizzetta is a character, too. He comes to the rink in the cowboy hat. He's a sharp dresser, and he just went up to the guy. I mean, these are two guys that had him in the lineup.
Yeah.
They probably talked a little warm-up. I don't need to tell you. And they just skated by. He's like, you want to go? Let's go. And he was into it. He got the crowd into it, and it was awesome. The place was buzzing. Nobody looked away. I absolutely loved every second of it. And I'm sure you did as well.
I did. And my favorite part was the celebration.
Yeah. He was into it.
Like it was unbelievable.
He was into it. And, man, Montreal's got that Arbor Jack guy, too, man. He's a throwback. He's young. He's big. He's tough. He makes his presence felt. And it's so funny last night. Our panel's like, well, Pizzetta wouldn't have celebrated if Milan Lucic was in the lineup. I'm like, well, I guess Calgary should have dressed Lucic then. Too bad. Too bad.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I appreciate you giving that insight, Ken. So now we're going to Pictou.
Okay,
now
let's
we're going
go.
to Pictou.
The big city.
Big city, 4,500?
Yep, 4,500.
Is that about what it is?
On a good day, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
right on.
On a good day.
So now I wanted to illustrate this story that we're about to talk about because honestly, Ken, I'm so intrigued by your story. I just absolutely love it. So now I'm going to cheat a little bit because I'm going to tell the first part of the story, and I would love if you could continue it.
Sure.
Now, I believe you were about 8 or 9 years old, and you were in a tryout for a hockey team in your hometown, but you didn't make the team.
Right. I didn't make the Novice 1 team. I had to play Novice 2.
Yes. So now this was a big turning point in Ken Reid's life. Can you explain that?
So I was lucky, unlike a lot of other hockey wannabes at the age of 8 or 9. Might have been 9. I think it was 9. 8 or 9. I realized I wasn't going to make the NHL. But I was devastated because my life's goal was just that's what I was going to do when I was grow up, like every other kid, right? I was going to play in the NHL. But I didn't make this Novice 1 team, and all my buddies made it. And I remember what my problem was. I had the weakest ankles in town until I got a pair of Dahoo 301s with the built-in ankle support. Then I could stand up. But, yeah, I got cut. I had to play Novice 2, and I went home, and I complained to my dad. If I can't make Novice 1, that means I'm not good enough to play in the NHL. Like, it dawned on me. If I can't make the best team in my hometown, how am I going to make the NHL? And I was just devastated. Dad, what am I going to do? And there was a game on TV, and Dad said, well, the guys that are commentating on the game, they get to be there. They get in for free. And I was like, boom, that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a sportscaster. So from a very young age, I knew what I wanted to do, which was it was a blessing for me. It was a curse for my dad because I grew up, my dad's a doctor, and him and 3 other docs moved to my town and opened a clinic. And they all grew up together. They all had kids the same age. So I went to school with a bunch of other doctors' kids, and I was the worst student. And they were all the smartest kids in the class, right? And so everybody was always, the teachers were always, what's wrong with Kenny? What about he doesn't care about school. And to be honest, I didn't, because I kind of was smart enough to figure out at a very young age that I didn't really need to know Pythagorean theorem to be a sportscaster.
Yep.
So school didn't mean much to me. It drove my dad nuts, but I did enough to get by, and got by on natural ability, I guess, and here I am. But it was nice to know what I wanted to do because, as you know, as a kid, so many kids don't know what they want to do when they grow up. So I was lucky, yeah. And also I was lucky that my parents supported me because it's kind of a preposterous thing to say you want to do because not a lot of people get to do it. So it's not like I said I want to be, something you can just go to school for, like a pharmacist or a teacher or a lawyer. I chose something that you can study it all you want, but there's no guarantee you're going to get a job on the other end.
Yes, and thank you for sharing that. So I wanted to get a little bit deeper because your passion for the game, when I was doing my research, especially from our first episode, it goes way back, Ken, to when you're really young. Like, I remember reading this really cool story about you being in front of the television with black boots on.
Yeah,
because they look like skates.
Yeah, rubber boots.
And you'd be playing with your grandfather.
Yeah, playing with my grandfather. Hockey was just always there. I don't know why, but it was always there. And playing in my rubber boots, playing road hockey with my brother. It's funny. Last night on the show, I told Ivanka, we were discussing how Vander Kane was trying to score for his 8th game in a row, and I said, well, the Oilers' record for goals in straight games is 12, held by David Lumley. And I specifically remember in 1981 pretending to be David Lumley in the kitchen of my old farmhouse. We would get the kitchen table, the chairs, and we'd take it out, and my dad and brother and I would play road hockey in the kitchen. I guess it would be floor hockey. I'd have been 6. My brother had been 3 or 4. And hockey was just always there, and I always enjoyed it at every level. I'd watch Hockey Night in Canada, but my favorite team growing up was the Montreal Canadiens, but my favorite team in town were the Pictou Mariners. They were a junior C team.
Okay.
And I'd go there on Saturday nights, and Mom and Dad would send me down to the rink with my buddies. I'd have $2, $1 to get in, 50 cents for the program, 2 packs of hockey cards. And the only rule was don't go down to the far end of the rink because that's where the booze and the dope was. So I stayed away from there. And the bottles would fly on the ice sometimes during the fights. And the local hero was this guy named Teapot. And I'll give you the Sheriff Podcast exclusive.
Yes.
In a year from now, I'm working on a book that I'm going to release that's going to be based on small town hockey heroes, and it's all based on this player I love, Teapot, because he was my Gretzky, right?
Yeah.
And he's still kind of the town hero to this day. People recall what he did for the town and how he used to score. So I figured there must be tons of guys out there who were like the local heroes, and there are. So I've been writing about that, and first draft of the book's due at the end of the month. So that's going to be coming out in a year's time.
That's exciting.
Nobody
stuff,
knows
Kenny.
that yet, buddy. That's just an exclusive for you, Sean. So yeah, it's going to be one of those books that I hope connects with people because it's just about the pureness of the game. And I know the game gets a lot of bad publicity lately, but I'm sure you believe and I believe 99% of the game is great. And I celebrate that part of the game. It's something that's always been with me. I geek it up for hockey at any level. It's just who I am, and it makes me happy. I'll be honest. That's just what I like to do.
I really appreciate you sharing that. I wanted to kind of add to these topics a little bit and kind of tie it in with a little twist. I believe that Canadian culture has so many different levels to it, and there's one part of our culture that is hockey card collecting. I believe it, Ken. We're not that far off in age.
No,
right?
we're not. No.
We've had these discussions.
I'm older, though.
Are you?
Yeah, buddy, I got
you. You look 20 years younger.
Thanks, buddy. I got you, though.
But I believe that it's part of our Canadian culture, this hockey card collecting. And I'll tell you why. Because in the early 90s, and like we had this discussion before, we had pop-up stores that were strictly for hockey card collectors.
Yep.
We had outlets that would sell binders where we'd have the plastic where we'd put our cards into the binders.
Yeah.
I grew up this way.
Yeah,
you
sure
grew
did.
up this way.
Yes.
Right?
And it's back. Hockey cards are huge again. And Sean, since I thought you might come down this road, I went by the old the desk in my house today, and I figured you might go there. So I brought a pack of 1990-91 Upper Deck.
Whoa.
We should open it because this is the glory years. This is what we're talking about, right?
This is the glory years.
You want to open it? We'll go through the players. This is the wheelhouse. Okay.
This is incredible.
This is me and the sheriff opening a pack of hockey cards, living the dream. So we want I guess a Forsberg rookie be good in there. Well, there's
So we got Martin Lapointe.
future Detroit Red Wing. Here we got to show him off. We got to show him off too.
Okay.
Marty
Here,
Lapointe.
I'll pass him to
Okay,
you as
Marty
we go here.
would go on to play for the Detroit, right, and win a couple cups.
That's
I believe.
right.
Marty Lapointe. There you go.
Look at this one, Igor Larionov, one of my favorite names in hockey.
Oh man, Igor Larionov, part of the KLM line
Yeah.
for the USSR. They won all those Olympic medals. We beat them in the '84 and '87 Canada Cup. Thought I'd throw that out there.
How about Ken Danico?
How about Ken Danico? Like, is there the most consistent player in New Jersey Devils history?
Probably.
No, and still broadcasting Devils games. Ken Danico.
I can't get over this.
This is awesome, eh?
We got a group photo here. I think it's the draft. I see Mike Ricci. I think it's Keith Primo, Owen Nolan, Trevor Linden. Am I right?
Peter Nedved. Peter Nedved. Look at that. Look at that hat on Nolan. Went number 1 overall. Spent part of his next year with the Halifax Citadel. So I remember playing, going watching him with the Citadels. There you go.
All right, so here's a special one here.
Okay.
Mr. Tony McKegney.
Oh, Tony McKegney, all-time sniper, baby.
Tony McKegney.
What a sniper. Read his goal totals on the back. Tony McKegney was a sick, underrated sniper.
All right, so we got 31 goals, 40 goals, 25 goals. Last year, 16 goals. That's a 80-point season.
And that's not going back far because the early 80s, when Tony McKegney was playing for Scotty Bowman's Buffalo Sabres, big-time sniper. And the thing that always got me about Tony McKegney, he'd get traded all the time, and he always produced. Always produced.
This is a treat right here.
Okay, we're rolling.
How about this one?
Okay.
Felix the Cat.
Felix the Cat Potvin. We could probably go up to the bar here at Bottomline and get $10 for that right now. That's a Felix the Cat Potvin rookie card.
So now is this World Juniors?
Yeah, that's World Juniors, but that classifies as Felix's rookie card. There you go.
Wow.
That's big. Felix the Cat might be in here getting a pint before the Leafs game tonight.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Let's go with a former Leaf, Glenn Anderson.
Oh my goodness, Glenn Anderson, Hockey Hall of Famer. I think he scored about 493 goals. Like, why wouldn't you just hang out and get the other 7?
Let's see how on point you are here.
Okay,
man.
This is before he retired. This is.
Right on. No, you're pretty close.
But yeah, he ended up with around 493. He's got 389 at this point. But yeah, he'd go on to snipe a few more. Okay, who else we got in there?
Okay, so we got Rick Tabaracci making a big body check.
Fantastic card. As you know, I wrote a couple books called Hockey Card Stories. I tried to get Rick to talk about this card. I couldn't get a hold of him. But I love that he's laying out a guy there for the St. Louis Blues.
Serge Savard.
Serge Savard. Look at this, all these Hockey Hall of Famers, and we're right next to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
One of the big 3 for the Montreal Canadiens. 50 years ago, where were you in 72? Serge was on the ice.
Mr. Phil Bourque.
Phil Bourque, the old 2-9er.
Yeah.
The old 2-9er from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Remember Phil Bourque on the breakaway when he put the puck down and he'd just go like that? Try to snipe it?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then the last 2, we got Todd Krieger and we got Troy Millette.
Troy Millette, is this the... Okay, so Troy Millette, one of the cool things about Troy Millette, he was a big heavy like you. He had a hockey card, and he told me all about it, where he was posing on the back of it. Tarp off, just lower body gear, kind of like semi-flexing in the room. Troy's a firefighter now.
Wow.
And Todd Krieger, just a good old consistent pro. And look in the foreground, Sheriff. The bucket of Shell Samuelson. Like that Beauty Jofa bucket.
Oh, the bucket.
Yeah.
The Jofa.
The Jofa. Shell was about 6'7". So that was a pretty good pack. That's not bad, buddy. So there you go.
Yeah, so now
fun.
this is incredible. I really, really appreciate you bringing this stuff,
Yeah, no problem, buddy.
Because it's perfect timing. Like, this was the type of things that would bring hockey to life for us, right?
Absolutely.
I was reading a story about when you were younger that there was only the one hockey game a week.
Yep.
The Hockey Night in Canada game.
Yep.
So Montreal against whoever they were playing.
Yep.
That was the motivation for this, right? Originally?
That was, so yeah, one game a week. So how else can a kid from rural Nova Scotia connect to the game? Well, you can read about it, but how do you see it? You'd see the highlights the next night on the news at 6, but how do you know what a guy from the Pittsburgh Penguins looks like? Well, you get his hockey card. So if you collect his O-Peachy cards or later these Upper Deck ones, that's how you get to connect with them. And then around the time these Upper Deck cards come out, you find out the cards are worth money. So I was setting up at shows and selling hockey cards all the time. And yeah, for me, it was a way to connect to the game. And it's funny how life evolves. Like a lot of guys, I grew out of hockey card collecting because I discovered girls when I was, a little older. So you go away and then you get married, you settle down, you need a hobby again. Can't go out all the time. And often I think most things in life, you revert back to original joys or original passions. So I kind of got back into cards about 10, 11 years ago, just as a way to connect with the history of the game. So to me, people might think of these just as little pieces of cardboard. To me, they're little pieces of history.
Yes.
I mean, there's Tony McKegney, just a super, super underrated player on a team that doesn't exist anymore, using a pair of tacks. Everybody had CCM tacks and a Beauty CCM helmet. You look in the background, I can see Ray Bourque in there.
Yeah.
To me, that's hockey history right there. And
So-
it's just, it's just, for some people, it's just a card of Tony McKegney. But to me, there's a story right there. Because if I see Tony, I'm going to be like, what's it like playing against Ray Bourque, man? I bet you he can tell me a story about it. Phil Bourque here. Why'd you wear a Jofa helmet with no protection? What was it like winning the Cups with Mario's in this year? Because this was the year they went on to win the Cup. You know?
It is.
So to me, they're little pieces of history, and they're stories. There's something, they're going to start a story. You look at any one of these cards, and it's the start of a story.
So now, obviously, the first book, Hockey Card Stories, everything that you've mentioned here was the motivation for that book. Do
Exactly.
you mind getting into that a little?
Yeah, so when I'd look at a card, I just want to know what was going on. So, like this card, for example, it is a great card. I would like to call up Keith Primo and go, Keith, what was it like getting drafted that day with Nedved Ricci and Nolan? What do you remember about posing for that photo? And he might say, I don't remember anything. And I'd be like, why are you wearing slacks? So maybe he'll tell me about where he got the slacks, because I called Brad May. His rookie card's the same season. It's a score. And if you see Brad's score rookie, he's got a giant mullet on him. So I was like, Brad, what's with the mullet? He goes, oh, the best part is I cut 5 inches off that mullet before the draft. So then he tells me all about his haircut, how he went out to Moore's the night before and bought a $250 suit, and how he was so special to him to get drafted. So just like a picture's worth 1,000 words, and it's just storytelling. So and I think probably more than hockey, I love hockey stories. So there you go.
Of course. Now speaking of Hockey Card Stories.
Yeah.
We both have a mutual friend, Mr. Terry Ryan.
Yes.
Now, I know that he has an incredible hockey card story that you're familiar with.
Which one are you talking about, where he got his parents to sign all his cards, the
I'm
autographs?
talking about the high school prom.
Oh, my God.
The high school prom.
Yeah.
Because this is a guy that got to play in the NHL at a very young age.
Yeah.
18 years old,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, and then he gets traded to Red Deer. Goes to a high school dance at Red Deer, and he's handing out his hockey card. I mean, he might be the only. I'm sure TR is the only guy to ever do that. But yeah, trying to get a dance with a girl by handing out the Montreal Canadiens hockey card, that's pretty good. That's vintage TR. The other thing I love, the other great hockey card story Terry has, is during the hockey card boom, and I know they still do it today. They get the players to sign a bunch, and they put them in the packs.
Okay.
So they sent Terry about 2,500 cards to sign.
Really?
And he's like, screw this. So he had his mom and dad and everybody signing them. So if you have a signed Terry Ryan card from, I don't know, 98 or 99, it may have been signed by his mother, Gail, or his father, Terry Ryan Sr. Just saying. But Terry Ryan Sr.'s autograph and Terry Jr.'s autograph look very much alike.
So now, just on a side note, I'm sure Mrs. Ryan is a legend in her own mind.
She's awesome.
Right?
She's awesome.
I've never had a chance to speak with her. But now, Terry Ryan Sr., you're not getting ripped off by getting him to sign the card.
No offense, TR Jr., but I'd rather have Senior, but he knows that. Have you ever been you have to go to Newfoundland and go to their basement.
I've seen it. I've seen the basement.
It's epic.
I've seen the basement.
It's epic. There's nothing like sitting there having a couple wobbly pops with Senior in his bathrobe and just listening to awesome hockey stories, watching DVDs of goals and fights, and just, that's what I love about the game is it just breeds so many outstanding stories, and just it just makes for, it brings people together. It makes you laugh. It makes you sit down. It makes you enjoy the company of other people. I mean, which I guess is what it's supposed to be all about anyway. Why do you play in the first place? To have fun. That's why you start to play. Nobody immediately straps on a set of blades to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, you learn about that and you dream of it, but ultimately we're just playing to have a good time and tell some stories afterwards in the room.
Absolutely, man. It makes me smile, and it brings me a lot of joy talking about that family, the Ryans.
They're the best.
In general.
They're awesome, yeah.
And it's definitely not surprising that Senior's a reoccurring guest on Spit and Chicklets.
I mean, Senior's awesome, but he's just such a fan of the game, and TR is such a fan of the game. And one of my favorite things in Senior's basement is his Bobby Hull stick. He's got this Bobby Hull stick, and the curve is just nuts. So I was like, where'd you get that? He said, when I played them, we played the Jets, and TR's playing for the Minnesota Fighting Saints. As soon as the game over, Senior goes over and knocks on the Jets door. Yeah, it's Bobby Hull here, and they're like, yeah. So why does the guy in full Minnesota Fighting Saints gear want to talk to Bobby? And Bobby opens the door. It's like TR's like, Bobby, I just played you. Bobby's like, yeah. He's like, can I get one of your sticks? Sure. So he give him his stick.
That's really cool.
You know what? Life's weird because a lot of times in life we're embarrassed at the moment to maybe ask for something. But I think back at Jacques Demers when the Habs won the Cup in '93, asking Wayne for a stick and the handshake, and there's senior probably going, geez, I don't know how many chances I'll get to play against Bobby Hull.
Yeah.
Maybe I better get the stick. And Alexander Ovechkin has a massive stick collection.
Yes,
So
I heard about that.
Yeah, there's always guys are always asking for stuff. But as Oprah says, if you want something, you have to ask for it. So there you go.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, those guys I find are so ahead of their time because, Ken, like,
Yeah.
they were ahead of their time because you look like last night, for example, watching the NFL highlights.
Yeah.
What did we see? Tom Brady throws a pick.
Right.
And the guy that made the interception
Yeah.
comes up to the greatest of all time and says, hey,
Yeah.
man, do you mind signing the football that I intercepted?
And
from
good
you?"
for Brady for signing it. I would have kicked it, man.
You know what? Same opinion. I thought it was a little strange, but I'm like, man, that's good on Brady, man.
Hey, and it's good on Brady. It's good on the guy that made the pick, too, because let's face it, if you pick off Tom Brady, you're probably going to be telling your grandkids about it someday.
Oh, yeah.
So now you got the evidence, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So, Ken, I wanted to switch things around a little bit. I think that people are really going to appreciate it because there was a time that a lot of bravery was shown on your behalf. And what I mean by that was before this instance, you used to you would talk about mental health awareness.
Yeah.
You would talk about it at golf tournaments. You would talk about it at certain public appearances that you may have had. The Toronto Star came to you and wanted to really put you a platform behind this.
Yeah.
And do you mind talking about how that changed and how it elevated?
Yeah,
with you?
sure. So, I suffered from pretty bad anxiety for a long time. I still suffer from it, but it's under control. Anxiety, depression, whatever you want to call it. I guess it would be more anxiety than anything, but it leads to depression. And yeah, as a teenager, the hockey cards were also something for me to do. I didn't go out. I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself, and I got into drinking. Not hard, but I drank like most kids, and drinking leads to guilt. Guilt leads to depression, the cycle, during your 20s. And I was just an empty guy. I kind of like I told the Star, and I wore a mask. I pretended to be happy when I wasn't, to try to get through the day, and I'd want to go around with my head down. And so I'm not sure how the Star got wind of it, but I'd spoken about it publicly before, like you said, at dinners and things like that. So they called up and asked if I wanted to do a story on it, and I asked my wife, and she's like, sure, it might help somebody. And that was a great idea because people have contacted me, and they said it did. So I told my story. And I just put it out there, and it's kind of like it's funny if you admit to something that you're not all that proud of or afraid of. So many other people will go, you know what, same boat, man, same boat. So I just threw it out there that I'd gone to a psychologist for a number of years. I was on medication. I'm still on medication. I take my little pill every night. I'm in a good place. I like to think I have balance now. Am I perfect? No. But for years, I always wanted to say, I just want to be normal. When I have a bad day, I want it to be a normal bad day, not like the pit of hell. So now when I have a bad day, it's a bad day. It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world.
Right. Before when I had a bad day, it was a pit of hell. I have lots of friends out there that helped me through some really, really bad times in my life. And they know who they are. But yeah, if you're out there and you're suffering, get help. And help's an amazing thing. The first thing you do, Michael Landsberg, so huge in this. The first thing you do is talk about it. Tell somebody. You tell somebody, then you can be, pointed in the right direction. For me, that direction was going to see a doctor. My wife had kind of had enough, and she's like, and I was putting a lot on her because she can listen, but it's kind of all she can do. And I went to my doctor, and I started up with her be about 10 years ago now, and I was like, fix me. And she's like, it doesn't work that way. It's just going to take a little bit of time. So it took time, but I got there, and I'm in a good spot now. I know what can send me to a bad spot, so I stay away from that for the most part. And I'm a happy guy, but yeah, if you're going through anxiety, you're going through depression, there is a way out. First thing you do, as Michael says, is talk to somebody, get the ball rolling on some treatment. It's not easy, but it's well worth it. It's well worth the journey, right?
Yes, of course, and I have to thank you, Ken, because it's extremely brave what you did by speaking out. I can't even imagine the amount of people that you helped because I mean, for me, for example, like I'm a fan of yours. When I saw that, like I was so moved by it, and I was so motivated to address anything that I had to talk about as well.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that that's the biggest thing. People that have platforms like yourself, if they really become honest, people really.
And that's, yeah, Sean, that's all it is. It's being honest with yourself, right? Like the last thing when the Star called me is like, oh man, I don't want to be. I don't really like everybody thinking they're a victim these days, and woe is me. And I was like, I don't want to be coming off as a victim. This is just who I am. It's what it is. So I was happy with the way the story was, and I'm really happy that it helps people. And you know, even if it was just one person, that's enough. And to be honest, it helped me too, getting it out there. But yeah, it's something that's out there, and it's on the internet, so it's always going to be there. And I don't mind talking about it at all. But yeah, once you talk about it, it's better. You get it out there, and it's funny where you talked about why are you yourself on TV and stuff. It's like, well, I am who I am, and that's part of me, right?
Yes.
Part of me is dealing with anxiety, and I don't know if those. Luckily, the pills haven't run out yet. So, you know, I'm in a good spot right now, and it's funny because for me, I always thought going on medication was a weakness. Even when I was going through the psychological training, I thought, well, medication must mean that I'm weak. And I was even reluctant to tell my psychologist that I wanted to try medication. And I told her, and she's like, there's nothing wrong with that. And now I'm just, man, it's just good. It's just normal. It's like brushing my teeth before I go to bed. I brush my teeth. I pop this little pill in. I don't even know if it does anything anymore, but
Yeah.
it helps me. So I don't have to wear a mask anymore. For years, I would have bad days that I just put on this fake smile and go about it because I am pretty much an outwardly happy guy, and now I'm just me. So it's easy. It's easy, and that goes for broadcasting too. Once you figure it out and it clicks, a friend of mine is named Gary Maxwell. He used to be the voice of Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling.
Wow.
He's a motivational speaker now, and he always talks about the authentic self. And once you discover who that authentic self is, I'm not going to say everything's easy, but it's a lot easier, right? Because you're going on and you're talking about sports. Well, you and I are going to talk about sports anyway.
Yep.
We're going to talk about what's on our minds. And so here we are talking about it. This is pretty easy, right? Like, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, I appreciate that. If the fans and the viewers wanted to look up that article, it is a Toronto Star article.
Yeah, you just Google it. It's out there.
Yeah, and they'll definitely be able to find that, Ken Reid.
Yep.
That's incredible. So now, again, I got to change things up a little
That's
bit because
okay.
we got a little bit we got pretty deep there, which I really appreciate.
No
A
problem.
lot of people need to hear this type of stuff, Ken, because the world that we live in today, we have to be honest, and we need support if we're going to be successful.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I know a lot of people deal with a lot of crap, and I know a lot of former tough guys deal with a lot of stuff. That's a tough role, man. The role you had, it's the toughest role in pro sports. And it's so funny whenever I meet people, and people will always ask me, oh, what's Brad May like, or what's Sean McMorrow like, or what's Wendell Clark like, because they beat guys up. I'm like, the nicest guys going. And everyone's like, why are the tough guys the nice guys? I'm like, who else would stand up for 19 of their buddies night in and night out? You got to be a nice guy to do that. So, what you guys did, mucho respect. And, I mean, a lot of people deal with a lot of stuff, and I'm not dealing with much. But if it helps people to know what I'm dealing with, I'm cool with that.
And we definitely appreciate it. So now, Ken, like I was saying, I'm gonna switch up a little bit before we go.
Yeah.
I gotta pick the top guy at Sportsnet's brain about these Toronto Maple Leafs.
Is Ron McLean coming down?
What's wrong with what? Sorry.
Is Ron McLean coming down? He's the top guy at Sportsnet.
Well, in my opinion, so I gotta pick your brain about the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf fan because I grew up in Scarborough.
Sure.
I was drafted by the Buffalo Sabres, so, when I was playing, it was different, but now I'm retired, so now I'm kind of back in the home.
You played your one NHL game a block away, which is
There you
awesome.
go. There you go. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you slept 2 blocks away
That's
before
right.
the game.
That's right.
Yeah.
My sister lives right beside there, too, now,
I
too.
love your story. I love it.
So, my point is we're getting all this excitement during the year, okay? We got the Mitch Marner 1,000-game point streak. We got this going on. Austin's starting to heat up. Are they going to get past the first round this year?
Okay. Do you remember this time last year how exciting it was? And
Yeah.
everyone's like, is Matthews going to get to 60? And
Yeah.
you remember the year before that, how exciting it was? Here's the deal. And I said the same thing last year. I said the same thing the year before. And I probably said the same thing the year before that. This year, I'm going to structure it a little different.
Okay.
The Toronto Maple Leafs have an amazing hockey team. They are a fantastic hockey team. They are built for the regular season. And I said this last year. If your goal is to win the President's Trophy, the regular season title, this team's got a shot at it. Now, they got to take care of New Jersey. They got to take Boston. This team, once again, as constructed right now, is not made for the playoffs. Look at the blue line. I don't see a top 2 stud back there like a Hedman or a Sergachev or a Pietrangelo, those guys you need on deep runs. I don't see a bottom 6 that is mucking it up and raising hell and coming out even and contributing maybe 40 goals from your fourth line or your third line together. I see a team that's uber skilled. I see a team that probably isn't going to adjust once things get physical come April, because every year, game 1 of the playoffs, it's almost like it's a shock to all our systems, and we forget that it happens every year. Every year, game 1 of the playoffs, bang, 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 bang. Everybody comes out banging.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen again this year. And as this team is constructed right now, it's no different than last year, no different than the year before. They're an awesome hockey team. They're just not built for playoffs.
So, hopefully, there will be a couple moves that can change this, though, right?
Yeah, if I'm a Leafs fan, that's what I'd be hoping
Yeah.
for. I mean, to me, you still got a surplus of the same type of player up front, different skill levels, but you got guys to get something, you got to give something, and the Leafs need a little more grit. They need some heavy guys on the back end, but it's funny the way the game goes. It goes in it's such a copycat league. There's how many big, tough defensemen are there in the NHL now? 10? Like, when you played, how many big, tough defensemen were there?
There was a lot.
There was
back
5
then.
per team.
Yeah.
So now there's like 4 guys per team that are just absolute puck-moving studs, that skills are off the charts, which is awesome. But you need those other guys, too, and I think what you need is the perfect combination. You need that Hedman guy or the Pietrangelo. The Hedman is the prototype now.
Yeah.
He's Mr. Everything, but... I hate to burst the bubble of all the Leafs fans out there. You got an awesome hockey team, but you don't have a playoff hockey team.
Okay, so I'm gonna stir the pot a little bit.
Good.
Now. I heard a little bird told me that Toronto's interested in Carlson.
Really?
Yes.
See,
So now, is it possible? Could Carlson come to the Leafs?
I don't know if it's possible. He'd have to okay it. I would tell your little bird that he would help them immensely with their power play, but I would also tell your little bird that he doesn't make them any tougher on the back end.
That's
right?
very true.
You know, that's what I would tell your little bird right there. So they gotta. I mean, it's just as constructed right now. I mean, to me, they're constructed the same way they've been constructed the last couple of years. Nothing's changed, and either Dubas is going to prove that, yes, this can work, or he's going to prove that once again, the same plan didn't work. And up to this point, just going with that skill, I don't know, how would you describe it? Skill over size?
President's Trophy type
Yes,
style team.
yes,
Like you said.
exactly. Like they are absolutely built for the regular season. They're not built for the playoffs. And to me, there's no difference between now and last year at all. Like, none.
So now, Ken.
They need a Sean McMorrow back on the point. You got to go back on the point.
Hey, I agree.
Yeah.
So now, Ken, these cards, man.
Yeah.
I can't believe that you brought this. This is such an honor. I mean, especially Tony McKegney being in this pack.
Yeah.
You're right, man. This brings life to the game.
So who on that pack do the Leafs need, right? Obviously, I show you the guy they need right there. There's who they need. They need Ken Danico.
Okay.
Right? Everybody needs this guy too. Serge Savard. They need Ken Danico and Serge Savard from that puck. They need a Hall of Fame defenseman, and they need just a big, steady, stay-at-home presence. If the Leafs can get Ken Danico and Serge Savard, they will win in the first round of the playoffs. If constructed as now, they're not going to win.
You've heard it here first.
You play this back in April.
Man, I really miss the cards, Ken. I miss them.
They're awesome. Buddy.
I'm glad that they're making a comeback.
You have your own hockey card too. That's pretty cool.
Yes, I do, and I'm very proud of that. So just before we go, because this has kind of been a hockey card episode.
Yeah.
It is making a comeback.
Yes.
Is there a certain company that's pushing this? Like
Upper
what's
Deck,
going on?
Upper Deck, they're still the exclusive NHL hockey card maker. So Upper Deck actually owns the O-Pee-Chee name now.
Really?
So if you buy O-Pee-Chees, they are actually Upper Deck cards. So
Wow.
there you go. Yeah. So, but what's Danico? He's got to be like 6'2", 210, isn't he? Let's see the back of this card. 6 feet 210.
There's
Okay.
so much info on the
See,
cards,
I want Ken Danico for the Leafs, and I want Serge Savard for the Leafs, and then you're talking, man. But you're gonna have to give up something to get that. Plus, I don't think your little bird needs to tell me, but you need top quality goaltender in the playoffs too, unless you're the Chicago Blackhawks from a few years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Ken, this has been an absolute blessing for me. The cards was the cherry on the top.
Awesome, buddy.
I want to thank you for coming
got
on,
it,
brother.
Sheriff.
I really appreciate it. This
My
was a
pleasure,
really fun
buddy.
episode
My
for me.
pleasure.
And
Thank you,
of
studio
course,
audience.
Of course. And I want to thank the viewers for tuning in to another episode of The Sheriff featuring my friend Ken Reid. We'll see you next time, guys.
Peace.
Woo!
Thanks for tuning in. Let's go.